You're fired!
All right, what's going on, everybody? And thank you once again for tuning in here. The game might actually be louder than me. I'm not 100% sure. I just really hope you guys can actually hear me. Now, what we're going to be playing right now is actually just a short demo. This is just a little something just to kind of kick off today's session. This game was actually created by Casper Crows. So the whole purpose of this game is to give it that classic PlayStation 1 feel to it. So it's intentionally designed the way it is from the creator. Now, this game caught my eye, and I'm really curious to see what it's all about. So I know nothing about it or of it. So that's it. We're about to go get ready to embrace ourselves for an adventure. I hope you guys do enjoy. We're going to be starting here in just a few seconds. All right, so first of all, a couple things I need to do here. We need to get rid of the cartoon character, right? Put me on here. All right, great. Let's get back into the game. And now we're gonna go ahead and start it. Now, the game has gamepad controller support. Problem is, I don't know if I can get it configured correctly. Looks like it's working, but it just doesn't work at the menu. Select the button you want to configure and press enter on the keyboard or the submit button. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and just try to start the game and kind of see what's going on here, guys. Showtime. That music is loud. Holy macro. Oh, here we go. Here we go. I know. I want it though, Jay. Eventually I'll get it. I have to wait till we get the stream funds back up again.
What is this? What am I wearing? I need to get out of here.
Holy crap, they jump us right straight into the action. Alright, so I got the how do I run? There's no running? Hold on a second. My buttons are not working. Alright, so we have sprint to run faster. Move Alyssa with the D-pad. Hold to make her run faster. So we don't have any, I don't know if I have any buttons. I don't think this is working. I might just have to do the keyboard. Alright, so keyboard is what? What is keyboard? Arrows? What the hell am I pressing here? Yeah, I don't know. This is weird already, guys. Holy macaroni, right? Okay, hold on. Time out. First of all, controller's not working the way it's intended. All right, so we do got the... No, hold on. Let me exit this game. Wait, what? Oh, here we go. Game settings. Config. I need to change all this. So this one needs to be this. Oh, it's set for keyboard. That's why. Duh. Left shift. Backspace. Left control. So X is going to be action. It's going to be that one. That one. Alright, we're gonna need a ready weapon. I don't know if that's gonna be the front bumper or back bumper. Ready weapon? I'm assuming the front one. Okay. Alright. This is weird. This is so weird, guys. Okay. Alright, so it's got that classic feel. Alright, so we have all the buttons set up correctly. Do I want to do joystick or D-pad? I think we'll stick to the D-pad. Oh, now I gotta do the controller the whole way. Oh yeah, now we can run. Yay! Okay, so now everything's working. Yeah, I should just like move this over here to like the big 4K screen, right? Anyway, oh wait, good news, guys. Guess what? Check this out. All right, so not only am I looking, by the way, I'm gonna break myself with all this, but not only am I looking to get the a new processor or motherboard, I'm actually looking into getting like a new desk. I want to get the ones that kind of raise up and down. I think they start at about 350 and they kind of go up to like 700 depending on what you want. I saw one for like, I think 450. I think it's 450, yes, but that's not counting if I get the mounts and everything like that for my setup. So I really want to get it because it looks really nice and it has outlets and it has a wireless charger built in onto the table desk. That's amazing. Okay. Anyway, let's get back and let's actually play this game already. Alright, so how long have I got here? How long have I got here? How did I get here? How long have I been out? I don't know, Alice. You tell me. A small night table. Ooh, it has a drawer. Ooh. There's a gun in here. I better take it with me. And a key might come in handy. She's rhyming the whole way. There is also a note. What the? Jay, 21 months, dude. You are going almost on a 2-year anniversary. Look at that, bro. You're going strong. That is true loyalty right there. And look at that. Enjoy your retro coins. Thank you for your contributions as always. And congratulations on the last giveaway. And thank you for coming in. Really appreciate it, guys. Make sure you guys are following J13J right now. Oh my gosh. What a way to kick off the stream, Jay. I appreciate it big time. So this is not going to be a long demo. But what I've seen is going to be pretty short. So after this, Jay, I need to figure out what we're going to be doing. So I don't know. I was actually debating between COD or Star Citizen. I don't know yet. But we'll see. We're going to party on 2 years. Woo, woo, woo. Get the drinks ready. I only did what I was told, but the gun is a little gift from me. Welcome to your new home. What? My new home? Why is she walking like that? It's locked. Tip. Using a key. Press start, open your inventory menu, and go to the item tab and use the key. Wow, old school. Like Tomb Raider old school. Item. Wow, it is like Tomb Raider. Key ring. Iron key. Let's use it. It's unlocked. I know, I remember you were telling me, Jay. Poor Jay. I feel bad for you, bro. I haven't really played it for a while. Okay, so we're going through the door. Let me get this thing out the way. What the hell's going on here?
Oh, excuse me.
What the heck? Why does this feel like Resident Evil? What the? Guys, I'm getting a Resident Evil vibe here. It's very dark outside. I cannot see anything. Can we check out the pictures too? It's a painting of an old-fashioned nurse is treating a sick person. What the hell is downstairs? It looks kind of like it, right? A beautiful painting of dried flowers in a vase. So how do I use my weapon? It's probably gonna be the X button. Gotta make sure I'm ready for it. There's no auto aim. Can't aim up or down. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be difficult. It's locked. It's a shape of a lock. Looks like an eye. Oh, no, you don't. Nope, I'm out of here. Bye-bye. Is the music loud, guys? Why are you talking like that? I just wasted a bullet. Let's hurry up, guys. Left hand. Okay, so I got a box of 45 ACP bullets. Oh wait, so what kind of gun are we actually rocking here? How do I check it out? What is this? Blue dress. I woke up with this strangely enough. It fits me very well. I get plus 15 defense. This weapon slot is empty, so we get more than one weapon. That's pretty cool. A pistol used by the police or military agents from the Royal Armed Defenses magazines, 8x32 ACP is semi-auto. Wow, we're pretty well equipped for being waking up to some weird stuff. It's like we're going against some dolls or something. What's up, Skyline? How are you? Yo. Oh my god, Demento, how are you? What's going on? Sorry guys, I haven't really been live in a while. I've just been completely busy, but don't worry, we're gonna be coming back very soon. This game is weird. Right? It does seem like it. There's an eerie skeleton in a display case. Okay. A large bookcase full of books and old chemistry equipment. Wow, all that. So I think we're...
Hey, you!
What the heck?
No, don't shoot. I can help you.
Who are you? What is this place?
My name is Paul, and this is the dollhouse.
The dollhouse? No, really. What is going on here? And why am I wearing this dress?
Yes. Well, can't help you with that. But if you can bring me some tooth wheels, like this one, I might be able to exchange them for some extra firepower.
Hey, don't free me, puppet.
Tooth wheels or nothing.
Fine.
So we give this guy tooth wheels and he gives us more firepower. So he's kind of like our merchant from like Resident Evil 4. Pretty much. The game is weird. Yes, very weird. But weird is good. I like weird. Weird is what really excites me. So what else do we have in here? Alright, we found a box of those 32. Oh, so we're finding different weapons here, guys. Any like secret Easter eggs in this game or anything? Alright, let's check out this skeleton. Well, we already checked out the skeleton, yeah. Alright, so we did... There's this weird looking... Oh, we can change our dress? Wait, what just happened? Oh, no, don't tell me the game just crashed. Guys. I think my game just crashed. No! Why? Not good. Why did it do this to me? Well, that's bad news. No, I think I'm doing something wrong here. Weird is the 4s, weird is good though. Weird is very good. Dang it, guys. Alright, I guess I gotta do it over again? Unbelievable. I mean, I guess it's you know what I can do? Hold on, let me close this game. Let me run it as an admin here. That will help it out big time. Alright, so we're gonna do it like a quick speed run. I mean, we weren't really that far anyway, so my controller's connected. Can we continue though, or is there somewhere we have to save it? I don't think I'm able to skip these. Alright, so this is where we wake up in the room. So we're just gonna kind of run past the two little ladies, talk to the guy again. I don't think I'm gonna open that drawer. But how do I save it?
What is this? What am I wearing? I need to get out of here.
Yeah, I can't skip anything right now.
Oh,
Did I see the Wandering RP server? What happened? Did you get the police department? I like this part. That's that whole Resident Evil feel. Yep. Oh, what the heck? Wait, why did she just like turn gray? Is it one of those monsters? It looks dead though. So there was no point in killing her then because I'm not getting anything out of it. That's a true big bummer. I think I can make it into the other room. Okay, so wow, the gun actually looks pretty big.
Hey, you! No, don't shoot. I can help you.
Who are you?
I can't skip it.
Place.
What the heck? What's up, buddy?
My name is Pope, and this is the dollhouse.
The dollhouse? No, really. What is going on here? And why am I wearing this dress?
Yes. Well, can't help you with that. But if you can bring me some tooth wheels, like this one,
Yeah.
I'll be able to exchange them for some extra firepower.
Firepower.
Hey, don't throw me, puppet.
Tooth wheels or nothing.
Okay, fine. I don't know if I want to open that up though, guys, because crashed my game. I'm just gonna skip it. I think that's just to change clothes.
Welcome.
Oh, we could buy things with this guy. Hold on. We got weapons. We got items. What about items? We can buy bullets, and med kits. What about dresses? Ooh. This is my Royal Defense or Royal Armed Defense Agent uniform. I feel more confident when wearing this. 15 defense. It does the same thing as the one I'm wearing now. So what's the difference? Wilson M1, a modern machine rifle mostly used by military units. Magazine 30 times, but that takes the 40 ACP. Nothing amazing, but hey, we can get things, so that's kind of cool. Jay, you need to get in ASAP, bro. Hurry, bro, because I want to patrol. Right. Guys, I appreciate everybody coming in here, guys. I really do. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right. So if you're coming in, you're probably wondering, like, what the heck am I playing? It looks like Resident Evil, but it looks like I'm playing as Alice. Yes, I am playing as Alice, and no, this is not Resident Evil. Nah, it's not hard, Jay. It's not hard at all, bro. It's real easy. Well, it was easier for me because, like, I'm familiar with more of it, but they have the guides and handbooks to read. If you want to read it, they'll help you out, bro. It's locked from the other side, so I gotta go downstairs. How do I save the game? Map. The map is just like Resident Evil. I bet you there's a way to save it. Wait, what's with these? It's a display case filled with pieces of bones and fossils. There are some old medical tools as well, but something seems to be missing. There's a note. I borrowed the pulse meter for a moment. I'll bring it back when I'm done with the small experiment. Interesting. So I gotta bring something back here. Oh yeah. Look at her. Look at her. The hell? I can't shoot her. She don't move. Yay! Give me my tooth, whatever. Okay, so they're down and out, guys. I gotta go downstairs, but there's something down there. Alice in Resident Evil. Yeah. I don't want to minimize and crash the game. I'm scared, guys. But Jay, you got it, bro. If anything, if you need help, I got you. I'm scared to go down here. Let me make sure we're ready, guys. This is gonna get dangerous. Oh, what the hell is that? That thing moves fast. How am I supposed to run past that thing? Oh, she could put her gun away? Oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah. Honestly, Jay, this is much easier than... Honestly, I want to say it's easier than what Kingpin was. They're a little laid back. But you're going to be going through training anyway, so you'll be learning along the process. It's not hard. I'm going down, guys. We're going to make it! I don't know what the hell. What the hell are those? Dude, this is so weird, man. That's not fair. Yeah, you can do ride-alongs with anybody. You'll I mean, I won't be doing your trainings, but you can do ride-alongs and I can like help you learn. Wow, we got some weird, interesting stairs here, guys. Love how smooth this game is running. I mean, yeah, the hell is that? A strange shaped glass pot is floating on the water. There is a piece of paper inside that reads, "Why did you turn into soil? Wait, why did you turn the soil into water and locked us up in the dark? It doesn't matter anymore. We are glass now, and the waters are our home. Please, someone, bring us to the wide oceans so we can swim free forever." Weird. Okay. I swear there's so many Resident Evil references. Like now I'm thinking apart like when we're facing the sharks. That's what it feels like right now. Jay, man, if you can get that interview, dude, that'd be amazing. That sentence is a tongue twister. It got me. It's locked from the other side. Of course it's locked. She goes up the stairs up and down pretty slow. Hell yeah, Jay. I think you're gonna like it, bro. Like I said, if you don't have any crimes, make a new character. Oh! RR, right? Yeah, what's down here? Nothing. Alright, we gotta go upstairs, guys. Something's on the floor there. Look at that. Ooh. Nah, I've never done anything illegal now. I don't like that we can't move around. There's a lot of locked doors, guys. I saw that. Yeah, don't worry, Jay. Honestly, I don't even know where some of the criminal things are because I just don't play as a criminal. Yo, TGS Vicky, I really appreciate those. Thank you. How you been? This is interesting, though. Her arm is kind of blocking the letter. There's a letter blocked with a note lying here. Note reads, "We locked up Adamiston. He went too far. Too many patients died from his mindless experiments. Worst of all, he called it fun. Now he could die there alone in his house of fun." Wow. On a letter block. Well, I'll take it. There's a note lying here. Okay, we read that part. Nothing else around here? What's over here? Oh. There's a round-shaped hole in the base of the statue. Something could fit here. The door is barricaded by these large spears. Just crawl under them. You can. There is no right or wrong way to play your character, but be careful. You get caught, Jay, you will get fired. They are strict about that. I think we're gonna go downstairs. But people's done it though. You could do it if that's what you want to do. You're not gonna get in trouble with the server, but with the department you might. There was a guy that just came this way, so I came this way for nothing. I need to take this crawling thing out the way. creepy, man. This like house pattern is so weird. Are we taking the elevator? Oh, I like this elevator. And I think we can see up her skirt. Okay. She's like, I don't know. Nothing? This contraption doesn't seem to work. Oh, that's not fun. We'll have to come back later for it, guys. It's gonna be used for something. Right. It's all pixelated. I couldn't see anything. There are some strong herbs stored here. Some of them could be useful as medicine. Seriously? Oh, med kit. Nothing in this food tray. Guys, I think we got something bad that might happen here. Well, no, they didn't blur it out, but it's, you can't see because of the graphics. Ugh. Okay. All right. The food on the table is made of wax or something? It looks quite real. So I'm in a house of dolls. I feel like we're in trouble here. Would that be a first get hired and fired the same day? Could be. But you know what though? In all honesty, I would keep one account you're real serious about, like the one you're gonna grind with, and then in like another account for whatever you do with it. Like a lot of people do that. Like some people play a cop as one account, an EMS in another account, and a criminal in another account. You can have up to 4 accounts. Oh, this guy is fast. Look at this guy. What the hell are you, dude? The sink is filled with, I don't even know how to say that. Porcelain? Doll parts? Looks like there are some cog-shaped pieces here as well. Yeah, I think I need to take this guy out. Oh my god, the fighting is so weird. I think I can outrun this thing. Oh, I'm in trouble. Oh, yeah, I don't have to attack it. So we got the letter block. Give me a second. So we got 2 letter blocks, 1 med kit. Oh, look at these things. They got like... Yikes. Guys, we're in big trouble. We need to go upstairs. I don't know what else we need to do down there, but those things are fast. I gotta take them out. It is very weird. Porcelain? Okay, see, now it makes sense. It's not a word I use every day. Not that I wax people and turn them into dolls on a daily basis. Yeah, see, there's a lot of these keys locked up. How do I save? How do I save the game? I only got 10 gears. Alright, let's back it out. Alright, well, maybe I can turn... I'll bring it back. Okay, I borrowed the pulse meter. So I need to bring in a pulse meter, but I don't have a pulse meter. Well, we do have a map. Yeah, true. Very true. Very good point. You might be right, Jay. Hey, Puma. How are ya? Yeah, it's really cool. So we got barricade, locked doors, open doors, and current location. Well, let's head out of here. Big painting of an old wise-looking man writing a book while holding down a glowing heart, but there are some shrubs bothering him. Or are they helping him? I don't know, whatever they do. It's locked! Of a left hand. Wait a minute, now that I thought about it... So, what key did this fit in again? I don't remember. Looks like an eye. I don't think we can keep using this, We gotta go back downstairs, guys. Let's head back down. Oh, he's going to attack me. Oh, we got another room down this way. This one looks dangerous, though. This could be bad news. What the hell's going on in here? The door is barricaded with chains and a lock. This doesn't look like an ordinary lock. Something fits in here. There is a mental label on the top that says, "To the house of..." The last word is missing. I wonder what they locked away in here. Maybe a way out of this place. I should get it open and find out. So I think I gotta use the blocks that I have. I bet you. Yeah. What this fits in here? There's one more. The house of something. House of PD or DP? No, I'm just playing. All right, so we got to see if to the house of. Either way, we're missing a block. So what is this? There is some kind of wooden puzzle attached to this pillar. A small handle is stuck on the other side. It looks like a key. Should I try to get it out? Oh, we got a little puzzle here, guys. So we need one more of those little block thingies. I don't think we're going to be able to do it right away. But Jay, as we speak, I hope you do that, bro. Actually, speaking of that, let me see. Oh, I shouldn't have minimized. Shoot. I hope the game doesn't crash. Crap. My mistake, guys. I'm sorry.
Connected. See you soon. Microphone sound muted.
Okay. Slide pieces. So what are we doing here? I just grabbed the key, right? Oh, I get what's going on here. Hold on a second. Oh, this is gonna be tricky. I need to do that, but I need to get that bottom left piece to the bottom right. Oh, I just completely switched it around. You gotta be kidding me. This is cutting it close. How can I do this? House of Sin. Hey, that might actually be what it is. I'm terrible with these. So I kind of know what we need to do. I just need to get this piece. Huh, that's interesting. There might be a different way we can do it. I don't think so, though. That's it. That's gotta be it, right? Yay! We did it! We did it! We did it! Got the key. Okay, so we got a key of what, though? Iron key, left hand key. And it literally looks like a hand. Left hand key, that's upstairs. Oh, this won't be fun. Run upstairs. Left hand key was upstairs. That I do remember. Left hand key. And then we're gonna get the right hand key. So what is this one? Left hand key. Alright, let's go and take out that left hand key here real quick. Alright, let's use it up. And the key doesn't fit. What? Left hand key. Do I got the right hand key? Wow, okay, that was weird. I see the last block, but that's too good to be true. Something is not right. There was a whole makeup setup on this table. This must be some woman's room. But that's not a good thing now, is it? Nothing of interest here. I'd rather wake up in this bed. Right, this room is like luxury. Nothing happening? I'm not buying it. Nothing in the bathtub? It's filled with clean sheets and towels. I could use some of them as a bandage if those monsters hurt me bad. Well, then you better take it with you. The bathtub's clean, but feels a bit wet. Wow, look at the toilet. Oh my god, there's mirror reflection? Oh, wow. How does somebody create a game that have mirror reflection, but then somebody's AAA titles don't have mirror reflection? Call of Duty. You know, it's so weird. We can look at ourselves? I don't look so well. So, what's the purpose of this mirror? Jay, you're making me hungry, bro. I don't want to leave because like it started raining outside. I don't even want to go out there. I'm actually, let me turn this fan out real quick. It's bum 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 bum. So my character's looking in the mirror. She's saying she don't feel so well. There's not much else or anything else going on here. So we got the 3 blocks. I gotta go back into that room. Oh my god. This thing's probably gonna try to scratch me. You better run. Oh, he's right there. You better run. Run! Oh gosh, it's, oh my god, it's on my hind knee. Okay. House of Sin, I like that. That might actually be it. Alright, a barricade to it, blah 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 blah. Yeah, let me just do the thing already. I forgot, it's like that Tomb Raider thing where you have to like manually. They are color coordinated though. I don't think Sin is it. Or it might be actually. No? Jay, it didn't work! Yeah, this weather is crazy. We have 70 degrees weather Sunday. Must be nice, bro. I've been averaging about 40s and sometimes 50s. We've had 70s a while ago, not too long ago. Alright, let's pull these back. The house of... Let me see about the color wise. House of Pen? Oh, that's not working. Alright, so there had to be another hint with this. Alright, so we don't have any like notes or nothing, so how would I remember? Let me read this part. The door is barricaded with chains and a lock. This doesn't look like, hey, something fits here. There's a metal label on the top that says to the house of blank. The last word is missing. To the house. Wonder what they locked away in here. Maybe a way out of this place. To the house? Go for it, bro, right? Oh my gosh. To the house of... Ash? No. It looks like it goes back into the same order, so... I... Hold on a second. I can do one of these first. Not his. Oh my gosh. To the house of... Wait a minute. That's what it was. To the house of fun. Because remember they were talking about the guy with fun? And they locked him into his fun house? It rang a bell. Alright, so we loosened the locks. Which is really good, guys. To the house of AFK? Hey, that's my specialty. I feel like we're in trouble. What? No! Isn't that your house, right? Dude. Look, directed by Casper Crows, written by Casper Crows, arts and graphics by Casper Crows, rigging and animations by Casper Crows, level design by Casper Crows, UI design by Casper Crows, programming by Casper Crows, early programming help by Simon Crows, Seagride Crows, and Sean David. Sound effects by Casper Crows. Music by Harisa Yoshimura. Voice acting Arisa Yoshimura. Poll Casper Crows. Used assets Retro 3D shader. Marketing Casper Crows. Beta testing by Arisa Yoshimura. Shiwa Zablere. Isa Dalinar. Thomas Abid. Simon Crows. Secret Crows. The people at Brotaru Brush. I don't know. Special thanks to all the followers and fans and you for playing the game. It's interesting. It's not bad. It is definitely interesting. But yes, there is no save function. So that was the quick little demo, guys. What are your guys' thoughts? What do you guys think? I don't know when the actual release for this game would be, but it'll be something that we'll have to check out. It will definitely be something we'll have to check out. Oh man, that was a great game, guys. That was definitely a great game. Okay, so let me just do something here really quick. Yeah, it did have a lot of Resident Evil vibe to it. But if you had to ask me, I think I like where the author is going, or the creator, bringing in that retro feel. Like, granted, it's not a done game. It was just a demo, and not bad. I mean, honestly, it was pretty good. RE meets Dorothy? Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? All right, let's quit that game. Yo, not a bad demo, guys. Not for that part. I need to move my camera. Why is my camera like this? There we go. Yeah, not bad at all. That was actually pretty good. Interesting. And it was free. Okay. I need to figure out what we're gonna do here. Okay, Jay. Did you get accepted into the PD yet or no? Probably not. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? Hold on. Let me check whatever really quick. Let's take a look and see when you applied. Oh my god, yo, solid. Thank you so much for that 3 months in a row. Wait, what's your character's name? Man, they denied a lot of applications. Right? Sub-hype? Oh, you're Johnny Walker? Where the hell are you? What's up, Solid? How are you? How are you? I just got done playing a game that had a really like Resident Evil vibe to it. It was kind of cool. I see you, J13 Jim. Please contact or so you need Sockers who's not around. So you wouldn't even be able to do it right now anyway. Oh well. Doesn't mean they're not a game. Yeah, you gotta contact them. Technically send them an email in character. And they'll give you further instructions. Oh, you were doing some Apex? Nice. Yeah, I wish Apex was crossplay. Unfortunately, it's not. Honestly, I don't know, man. I kind of took a break from Battle Royales. But Apex would be probably the only one I would play. I used to do PUBG. We used to do Creative Destruction. We used to do Rules of Survival. We used to do, man, so many of them. Okay, guys, so I got to switch games here. Give me a moment. Bear with me. Bear with me, man. Season 4, that's insane, bro. That is insane. I saw some new skins for that game. I'm like, wow, I'm falling behind. Oh, okay, so I can technically just delete that game, actually, to be honest. I'll just delete it. Clear out the hard drive space. I don't want to keep it clogged. Alright, so the thing is what do we have here? We have a lot of, like... Do I want to do multiplayer or single player? It's 12 o'clock in the morning right now. Yeah, same here. No. I feel... Well, I can't be on too long tonight. We're gonna do the best we can. You know. Let me see who's on Xbox real quick. I know my cousin's been wanting to play Call of Duty, and I haven't played with him in like 2 weeks, man. I feel bad. He's still on. He's supposed to play Dead Island with us, man. Little liar. Watch this. I'm gonna message him real quick. Yo, is Bori around? Bori's not around. Shoot. Could have got that Borderlands out the way. Yeah. I'm gonna message his, you know, I'm gonna, you know, let me just message him. Did you ever wanted to play Island? Me and one of my Twitch mods. Or have you decided you did not want to? I'm not saying we can't play it ourselves, but it'd just be nice to have a little team going on. I know, right? Right? Well, Borderlands 2, or not Borderlands 2, Dead Island, I had to launch up my Xbox, which is actually a good thing because it's much easier for me to play. Doesn't put a toll on my system. Let me see what he's doing. Give me a second. Okay. Oh, right there. That's good. Ooh, can't you play it on GeForce now? What do you mean? Oh, Borderlands 2, I would be able to, yes. Oh, speaking of GeForce, you just reminded me. All right, so with GeForce, you get two options. One, you can play whatever's on their cloud, and two, you can play games from your computer remotely. They do recommend a 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, so technically mobile network is not ideal, and they're not lying about that. Hmm. If anything, Jay, I would say probably in a couple hours. You should be able to get in probably with an interview. The names that they gave you on Discord, keep an eye on those names. When you see that they're playing Wandering RP, hurry up and get in. Can you play games directly from your Xbox to GeForce now? I don't know. I don't think so. Yeah, my cousin ain't responding. Okay, so we're gonna do all right. We're gonna do let me see here. Xbox, GeForce. Remote play. I think you kind of can. So playing at playing Xbox 360 or PS3 and a video GeForce. Windows 10 to bring Xbox One to Shield. Yeah, I don't know, Jay. I don't think so. I know Microsoft is kind of letting you do it from your Xbox. Problem is, it's not in our region quite yet. At least that's what it told me. It lets me do the xCloud. I can't do the game streaming part. Is there a game we need to wipe out on my hard drive? Because I did clear up some space on my one hard drive, but the other one I didn't. Okay. It's on GeForce, right? Dude, Left 4 Dead was a fun game. Problem is, you gotta make sure you got the same mods, or I think it doesn't work, or whatever it was. Yo, Steam? Yeah, let me look at my Steam list, man. Hold on, give me a second, guys. I turn off my recording, so because that way we're not recording a video right now. I did wanted to play. I think there was a. You know what? Give me a second. Let's find out what's going on here. We're gonna take the glasses off just for now, because they're kind of hurting my ears. Bum 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 bum. You can play that on GeForce? Yeah. Dude, did you buy the actual game at launch? Did you get it? Let me just check something real quick. Okay, let me see who's online. I bet you Thomas never added me. How much you want to bet? You want to take a wild guess? Thomas, man, let me tell you, this dude. Yeah, I don't know. I feel bad. Um,
You're fired!
right. I do need to change my stream title. Yeah, we could do creative universe. That's fine. Give me 1 second. Let's clear this out the way. This. Or create a verse, my bad. The only thing I don't like about the NVIDIA G Shield though is that it actually ran Steam in big picture mode. I tried to play 5M on GeForce. It worked! But not with a controller. So I need to buy me a mouse and keyboard, probably something cheap. And I believe I have the adapter for it. I think I do. Right? Yeah, I gotta do something. I gotta do something.
Hey, creator! Over here! Hey!
I can't wait to get my upgrades, man. I think I'm gonna get the parts I have now. As much as I want to build a streaming PC, I'm probably gonna give this to my son. I think he's gonna need it. And plus, he really wants to get into PC gaming, and his computer is just not doing it too well right now. Or I'll just use these for a streaming rig. I don't know yet, so I'll have to see. What's up, Skull Bro? How are you? Do both? Wait, what did I even say? I don't remember. Oh, that's right. Wow. You can tell I'm getting tired already. Okay. That's right. I did say that. Jeez, I'm super forgetful. Bum bum ba ba bum. Bum bum ba ba bum. Bum bum ba ba bum. You're doing good? That's good. Brain fart. Super big brain fart. Let me tell you, you have no idea. Man, that sucks. I beat that so fast. Like, that was crazy. And that was crazy. And that was crazy. Man, this game came out in 2014? Holy mackerel, it's old. Okay. That's all done. That is all done. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and join J13's world here real quick, guys. Make sure my controller's turned off. I don't want that on because then it's gonna make me use it in the game. Alright, while that loads real quick. Oh, I forgot. We need to do the Alright, we're good to go. I gotta make sure everything's working up. Holy crap, why do I keep doing that? Alright, Jay, you're gonna have to show me some of the new things you've done here, bro. I forgot to play this already. Where'd Jay go? Wow, surprisingly, the game's running at a full solid, What the Dorellis? Thank you! What's going on, bro? Jeez, I don't go live for a while and I go live and I'm getting subs like crazy, guys. Maybe I need to be gone for a while. How are you today? 14 months! 14 months! Two of you guys, both of you actually, J13 and Dorellis, both been here for over a year. Jay's about to hit 2 years. Dorellis is at 14 months. But I think Dorellis had like a renewal issue. I don't know how that works, but congratulations, guys, and thank you so much for your ongoing support. Oh my god. Alright, guys, so right now we're just gonna do a little bit of Creativerse. I forgot how to play already, but we're gonna be here. We're in J13's world. Right, Jay? Hey, we can hurt each other? I didn't know we could hurt each other. Alright, Jay, what are we doing here today? I'm gonna get on Discord. I am on Discord already. Oh, yeah. Oh, God. Sorry, Jay. I keep hitting the right mouse button all the time. By the way, Dorella's, guess what, bro? Now we can play PC games on our phone and Xbox. How awesome is that? Wait, what happened? Yeah, I keep hitting that right mouse button like a dummy. All right, so what's going on here? What do you got new? What do you got new? I know you said you were, yeah, something you really wanted to show me. What is it? Oh, this? It's been a while. A little rusty. Surprisingly, it's, you got reindeers now? So...
Yeah, I got all kinds of stuff. There's a place over here.
Oh.
This is something I made.
Hey, remember how long it took us to clear out the trees in one area? Psh.
Oh yeah.
What is this shield for?
This is my land.
Oh, is that what this is?
Yeah, there's no fighting in this area, so you can't kill each other.
Oh. Wow, look at you with the fancy pants, blue and gray tiles going on underground here. Okay.
Yeah, I put the white on the outside, and if you could tell, there's white, and then there's gray in the middle.
Dorellis, how's that Conan game working out for you? I see that you RP under. That's interesting, dude.
So I had to use white.
Yeah, no, it looks nice though, and it's very well coordinated. So I much props for that.
It took me forever. Holy, it took me like a week just to do the floor. It was crazy. Then the rest was
So what do we got upstairs? Oh. Oh, an arc. Why did I? Or not Conan.
So I had to do the
Oh my god.
windows.
You know what it is? Both characters are very cock diesel.
Dark.
Jeez.
Custom made. It's something I made myself. I was thinking about making a blueprint for it so other people could actually make it. But I need input on what else I could add.
Well, let me see. What is that above us? Oh, like glass?
Glass, yeah. I put the glass there because it was just too dark with the black roof.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
It was super dark. That's why I have all these lights in here for, because it was super dark.
Oh, yeah. Speaking which, Jay, hold on, I got you, bro. Give me a second.
Okay.
Couple things I wanna send you. Make sure you're nice and ready for, you know, I'm not gonna say it out loud.
Okay. It's a secret Oh, did you ever see my glitch where I went under the map on Gears 5?
What is it?
When I glitched underneath the map?
Yeah, bro. What the?
That was crazy.
I can't believe I played that game entirely on a cell phone.
Oh yeah.
But you know what though? It actually runs quite nicely. I feel like it runs better than the Nvidia Shield or GeForce. I noticed on the Nvidia one, they kind of get like some pixelation going on in terms of like quick movement. But my biggest issue with it was you can't really, because most games are not controller friendly for PC. Like for example, I was trying to test Smite, and Smite is controller supported, but not entirely. So I can't navigate the menus with the controller. You can touchscreen though, which is nice. And it does have a touchscreen virtual pad if you need be, but a mouse and keyboard would definitely be needed. I just don't know how I would go about with that. I'll probably have to get like a portable table to put on my lap while I'm doing it. that'd just be going too much into it. But
Yeah,
I was looking around. I was at GameStop. They had like a keyboard and mouse for like $50, and I'm like I'm not looking for like top notch, high performance, whatever. This is just the plug-in, but I need to get an adapter to plug this stuff in.
you could probably get one.
Yeah, no problem about this.
$20.
Yeah, I saw some cheap ones. Like I know like I think Five and Below even had one. You know, I know it may not be the best in the world, but this is just to play on my phone, just to get by.
Check, like eBay or Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Used one that's decent. That's
Oh,
like,
speaking of eBay, my son's really into Yu-Gi-Oh, right? I wanted to buy the what they call it, the dual disc, like the little thing that they wear in their hands. Yeah, they start at about $100. So yeah, that might be out of his question.
yeah.
You know, I bought him a deck, a whole bunch of cards. I bought him like the binders to put his cards in, and I bought him like the little like pads that he could lay the cards in, kind of like, you know, battling. But I wanted to get him to do this, kind of give him the full authentic feel of Yu-Gi-Oh. But so all those price tags, I'm like, wow.
Yeah, that's a little.
Okay, so I sent you one of them. You should have got it.
Okay, I got it. Is that a big?
You let me know. Remember though, you never got these.
Okay. Oh, 8 feet. That's not too bad.
Yeah. Like I said, you'll learn more anyway as you go. I'm not gonna say too much now because I'm live.
Oh yeah, I remember this because I remember all this. Kind of on the other server that we're on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember some of this stuff. I had to take that when I tried to apply for. What was I trying to apply for? I think I was trying to apply for one of the admins or something like that, and they needed all that information too.
Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome, man. Now you see why it's so serious?
Yeah.
Honestly, it's not for everybody. Some people like it, some people don't. It's all personal preference.
Yeah, only thing I'm really worried about is that interview because I'm not good talking to somebody I never talked to before, so it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know anybody. I mean,
'Cause really, I haven't met
I know the guy. I know the one of the main devs on the server, but I don't use that for my advantage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you don't see me going, "Hey, dude, give me a." Oh God, keep doing it. You know what it is? Because I got multiple monitors, dude. That computer desk today, bro. I went to Office Max, right? And Office Max actually had them in stock. The tables that move up and down with the button. And I want to get one so bad, dude. Because like that way I can stand up and play games. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to keep sitting down.
Yeah.
Because sitting down all the time is bad for your back. And honestly, I've been having like back and neck problems now from streaming all the time before. So I've been trying not to sit down so much, but I don't know. Maybe I'm getting old. I sound like I'm complaining, but jeez, it's getting rough.
I know how it feels. My back's hurting all the time. Too.
Yeah, it's like killing me, bro. I'll be laying down. I'll be like cracking it. I'll be doing like stretches and yoga and all types of weird shenanigans. And like, you know, I get like temporary relief or whatnot, but it's like, man, I wake up the next time like, oh, again?
Yeah. I had to go to acupuncture quite a few times because it hurt so bad. I just went there and started doing that. That actually,
No, that's actually good for you.
you walk out of there, you feel.
What is this? Is this the bathroom? Oh, this is the bedroom. Oh, my bad. Where's the bathroom? Where we go poop at? Come on, Jay. How do you build a house with no restroom, dude? Probably could put one down here. You got a pretty large like living room, dining room / kitchen area going on down here, but no dividers, like no walls to divide each room.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Where do I need the walls? I was trying to figure all that stuff out. Like, I know I could probably put like a wall right here, start it here.
You could, yeah.
I just need to get the stuff for it because the material I have is pretty rare. So
Yeah. Oh my god. But yeah, like I said, bro, those are the all that stuff. You could like just glance it over, look at it. Main thing is obviously just knowing how to play. You know what I'm saying? The stuff they know you're gonna learn as you go. When you go in, just it's like going for a real interview. Just say you're a fast learner, make an impression. You know, just to impress, and make sure you don't go in there with a freaking AK-47 at an interview and you know, all that good stuff. I think you'll be fine, bro. Okay, so this was the one house you built. I like this back door right here. It kind of gives me like that Harry Potter vibe. I like it.
Yeah, I like the doors. They're made from obsidian, which was really hard to make because obsidian is really hard to
Yo, what's up, Chris Warrior? How are you? Obsidian, yeah, it looks nice. Oh, speaking of that, what did you just give me?
It's iron.
What do I have now?
Thing. I have a diamond one too, but I think I only made one.
What do I have now? I have iron mining, and the one you gave me is iron mining. Oh, okay, mine's still good for now.
Yeah, they break pretty quickly.
They do, yeah. All right, we got some obsidian shield here, which we can jump over, but what about the NPCs?
They can. So yeah, but I put it there just like have like a little.
Dude, I wish. Honestly, you want to know what's weird? You know how like everybody got into all these like creative games? There was one that I got so into, bro, and I kid you not. I literally built a spaceship, a ship, a school, a hospital, a house, a giant robotic robot. Like I built all this, bro. But the game wasn't really a big hit, but I was so into it. Like, to me, it looked nice. Like, it was on Xbox 360. And, you know, back then, obviously, there was no cloud saves. They didn't really start cloud saving until a little later. How do I open these? How do I interact? Oh, yeah. I'll just jump over. Okay, so we got that built up there. What was the other thing you built? That was the only thing you built? No way, Jay. No way, bro. I've been seeing you on.
And then I finished, of course, I finished that thing up, but you helped me with that, so.
I remember that. That was, wow.
That was a pass and a half.
But you know what? Though that was a big place you built. But see, you got these trees in a way. Can you do like a flat, closed world like Minecraft or no?
You could invite certain people. Yeah, you could have it set up where you could only certain people could join. Yeah. You could block people too and kick them if you don't want to.
Right.
I think you can switch to invite only, but I'm not sure how to do it.
It's got to be in your server settings.
You could do visitors only, explosives disabled, PvP combat disabled. Yeah, you can do quite a few things. You could do password too, so yeah, you could make it custom, so nobody could, only certain people could join you. So.
Right.
Mine is not public world, so it says option to change it to public world. So yeah, you got a lot of things you can change into it.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good though. That is pretty good.
And then I also look down here. I can change stuff down here. But before you go down there, I'll give you a few things here.
What is it?
Before you go down to the bottom, what was it? Control. Shit. What the heck was they to use? There you go. Okay, I dropped that for you.
Oh, what's this? Corruption resistance. Oh, for down there, yeah. At the trigger this, you'll suddenly realize that you never really liked tabloids after all. Reduce environmental effect by 90%. Not bad. Reduce damage by, or dot damage by 50%. Jeez. I'll take it.
These. Whoa, that
Is the iron mining cells gonna be good enough? Or wait, what's the best one we could build right now? Oh wait, I forgot this. That's
I could do a diamond one. Let's see if I have enough for diamond.
yeah, because I think the last time I was down there, I wasn't able to really. I think we got so far and I couldn't do anything.
Okay, I think I have all that. If I could find where it was at. Here's some diamond. I need to get these things organized more too, because it's all screwed up right now. I'm not sure where anything's at. Iron. Oh, that's where I'm short, I think. Yep, that's what I'm short. Okay, well, we can't make that yet. Yeah, I'm short of one item, so we have to probably go down and get some. Okay. Ice cubes.
All right, sorry about that.
That's okay. that affected you. Whoa.
Wait, what did it do?
I threw a snowball at you and it like took part of your health and it froze you, I think, or something partially.
How can you freeze a frost giant?
I don't know. It did some damage to you.
Yeah, it did. I'm at 685 health.
That's crazy. I think they did damage. I thought you could throw them at your friends and not kill each other, but no.
Oh man. All right, so what do we got in the purple bag? What is this? What's going on here?
Snowballs.
Snowballs.
One I just threw at you and
One-
actually caused damage to you.
One that almost knocked me out.
Yeah, the one almost killed you. One snowball almost killed you. That was pretty crazy. That's a powerful snowball.
Dude, that's good. You got accepted, bro. Hell yeah. I think you'll like it better because you know what? You're gonna get involved. Problem is, people hate cops. Good luck, bro. You see what I? You see, and it's in like you stick out like a sore thumb. Like now, when you go at a red light, people are gonna like do quick U-turns, come to you, and be like, "Yo, cop." Like I hate that. Yeah, but they still have to follow rules too, so you'll be fine. The good thing is a lot of the admins are on the PD, so like if something goes wrong or whatever, they're pretty much there to help.
Oh, did you notice too? I changed a couple things.
Yeah, let's see. I see we got these here. I think we did. But I see you brought the gift box here. A little bit of everything: furniture, crafting items, consumable. Hello world. Interact with me. Blocks, furniture, blah blah blah. What's this last one?
It's just a hodgepodge of everything.
A hot tamale?
Yep, just everything.
This fire pit looks a little different here.
Well, you see the difference between these two.
Furniture and crafting items. That's it. No.
Look at the boards, the science.
Oh, there's different. Oh, one's on the wall.
Yeah, I finally figured out how to craft those, so now I can craft.
I see you got two on the wall. So what's stopping you from doing all of them? Something you really need?
I had to get more stuff. I was like, oh, cool, that's how you do it. Okay. I don't even remember which one it was. I looked for signs and they gave me the same sign that I have now.
Right? Oh, that's crazy, bro. That game I played today, it was just a demo. Just think one person practically made that game, and then a couple people kind of pitched in and helped. Like, it just shows you how quickly now people can make games. These AAA titles got no excuse, bro. Now, don't get me wrong. The Unreal Engine, I'm not going to degrade it. It is an easy engine to build on because it's very familiar, and there's a lot to go with it and resources to obtain from it. Now, like people like, let's say Star Citizen's a little different because they have their own engine, so they don't get any help with anything. It's pretty much they're going from scratch. So I can kind of understand why some people, it's hard. But at the same time, if one person can do it and you got a team of like 20 or 30 or 10, well, what's going on?
Look at the game that Eric was making.
You got an error?
Aaron R is making.
Huh?
Look at the game that the Sea of Thieves game that Aaron R is making.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's what the RPG thing, and that's really cool too. It just shows you like, yeah, you can do it.
By other people, but he's doing it by himself. He's inputting all the stuff, which
It's
it's easy, but it's still you got to do it yourself.
right.
You gotta know how to implement it and actually get it to work in the game because if one thing doesn't work, it screws up other stuff, and he actually just had that issue.
Yeah, coding is a very time-consuming.
Yeah, very tedious.
It's a lot of proper planning, time management, and a lot of like. It's just it takes a lot of time. That's all. That's all it really is. You just got to sit there and if you know computer coding, and you got the patience, anybody can do it. It's just the keyword patience.
Yeah, that's mine too because you have to sit there and
Yeah.
you get this right, the warding right. You gotta have the yeah. He's teaching me how to do some of that stuff, but man, it's
Yeah.
frustrating,
I thought about doing it because I also have the RPG Maker. I think I got it from Viz the one time. I bought me a copy for free. Technically, I just used my Viz points. But, dude, I just don't have time. I got, having a, when you got a family and then I live stream and even live streaming, look at me, bro. I barely go live. I'm just, I can't keep doing this. So I got to make sure I go live because I worked my butt off to get where I'm at.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I actually went to a game shop today, or not a game shop, but like some kind of like gaming center. And these people, they just opened up. It's kind of like a hangout gaming cafe kind of deal. You go in, they sell like gaming accessories and whatnot. They have a bunch of Xboxes lined up, and they're sponsored through Microsoft, which is good. But they also have a few computers lined up, and they host events and competitions with like Rocket League, League of Legends, Counter-Strike. What was the other one? What the hell was that? Holy shoot. And then like a few other games. Damn, dude, I bought this new air freshener, right? Because, I got those automatic ones. I forgot what scent I got, but it is very strong. Oh my god. How do you feel about the coronavirus?
Oh man, I read about that. Like,
Did you read the back of your Lysol can?
no.
Yep. It's on there too. Not that I know. I'm just saying.
To the United States now too.
Yep. There was one incident in my state. They got quarantined. They won't say where. So, but that was all we had. We're still low risk, but just be careful, man.
Yeah, there's right next
And it doesn't help that it's in the winter too.
in the state next to us is got it too, and they're only the people that have it are like 90 miles from where I live at. So
That's not that far. That's what, about an hour and a half away?
yep,
That's not.
that's a little too close to home.
That is, man. Be careful, dude. Keep a mask nearby in case you need it.
Wear a gas mask everywhere you go.
Mm-hmm.
Do they ever have a cure for that, or have they found one yet?
I'm sure they do. Maybe.
And this is a healing station, so if you want to heal up.
Oh. I say I got the coronavirus? Alright. Wait, heal up. Wait.
Yes.
Healing beacon. Oh, I gotta just stand here. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, it has to be turned on. There it's on. It just heals you up. Well, supposed to.
There we go. All good. Oh, first of all, let me check my inventory stuff. I need to get rid of some of this stuff. What did you need anyway for my diamond?
We need some tourmaline.
What?
Tourmaline, which we have to get down below. I got everything else. I need some ice too. I need to get some ice, so we'll have to go into the frozen area and get that.
Wow. Okay.
It's fun to do because you can freeze to death.
I'm ready when you are. Should we shut the door? Are there like bosses in this game?
Down there, there's some.
I know there's like stronger enemies, but I'm wondering if there's like big bosses.
Not really. But they're in certain areas though. They got some pretty.
Oh, good news, bro. Hold on a second. Give me a second.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it'll be beautiful.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
I think I'll probably lag pretty bad though.
Yeah, probably. GTA, and plus it's 5M. If it was just GTA by itself, bro, because I get like so much FPS on just regular GTA. But the minute 5M pops in,
Yeah, I know, that's what mine too, I get it.
Yeah, dude, I get 40 FPS, bro, 50. And you know the sad thing is, people with lower cards get more than I do, bro. It's like, what the hell? And you know what's weird about the Grand Theft Auto? It's weird. Just because you lower the settings doesn't actually make it run better. What I found out is that if you lower the graphic settings too much, you actually use more CPU than GPU. Does that make any sense?
No.
Um,
No, it doesn't at all.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I launch 5M, if I'm on a Discord call or anything like that, it just makes it just completely lag out.
Like right now, my CPU is at 40%, my GPU is at 30. So what the hell's going on, bro? Why is this game not using my GPU? Hold on, let me open up my the video manager real quick. Yeah, you have to play with your 3D settings big time. And then you have to force the render through the GPU instead of auto. Mm-hmm.
I had to do a bunch of customized settings
Hey, what's up, Heaviness? How are you?
to get better performance in Call of Duty because it was getting bad.
Mm-hmm. Where's Creativerse at? Oh man, I'm not gonna be able to find it. Ah, screw this. Let me just add. That's good. That's good. I'm glad to see you doing great.
This game.
Oh yeah. Why won't it open? Yeah, dude. Honestly, I think what really killed me is that my monitors don't match the same refresh rate. I tried forcing the refresh rate on my, main monitor to like go match the others, and sometimes it still gets overridden by the game. Okay, my NVIDIA control panel just literally crashed on me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was gonna get a 2080 card, bro, but honestly,
I have to go AMD.
the 3080 is coming out. But I think the 1080 is still good for mining, so I might be able to get a good amount of money back.
Yeah.
I want to sell because I think the Intel i7 has a built-in CPU or GPU anyway, so I think I'm just gonna when I give it to my son, I'm just gonna let him just run up those graphics for now anyway, and then I want to get a 2080. I don't think I'm even gonna go I'm sorry, I don't think I'm even gonna go 1080 or like Ti. I might just go standard 2080 because the Ti's are like over $1,000, and then the regular 2080 I think is only like $600-800, and all you're getting is a little extra gigabytes of like VRAM. That's all you're really getting, so I don't know. And then it depends on the case fans too. All right, let me see here on my this is all off. Where is it? OpenGL render. Yeah. So technically it's using my global settings, so global settings I should be fine. Low latency mode. No, that's not gonna. Max refresh rate. You know what? I'm not even worried about it, dude. The game runs fine. There, let's go. I remember last time I was trying to play with it. I don't want to sit here all day playing with it. Ooh. Hold on. I know we gotta build like ladders and stuff to climb up.
Let's see, do we have any resources for ladder? Of course not.
We got this. Oh yeah, guys. I know that we can do it.
Okay. Ow, that hurt. That first step is a doozy.
So where are we gonna find this? What was it that you said you needed?
Tubalene, or it's like a purple. way down here. Way down here. And the reason, if you have the fire one, which I gave you 5 of them, you could use those.
Oh yeah. Where is it? So this gives me, oh. You're unburnt, the mother of Chizards. Chizard!
Look at this thing. See a crazy creature?
Oh!
Fire.
That monster is on fire! Yo, hold on, bro. I forgot how to use items here. Your quick bar is full. Oh.
Just switch out your quick bar.
Basic health potion. What the hell was? There you go. Take it. Yeah. How long does it last? 10 minutes? Not bad. Not bad.
Gotta heal up. That hurt.
Mm-hmm. Song kick your butt.
These fishes, you gotta watch out for those. They're meat.
You know what's so funny? I was showing my son, right? Mortal Kombat, like the old school one. And he has a thing for Shang Kahn. So I had to show him like all the taunts Shang Kahn would say in the old Mortal Kombat. Over here being like, you're still trying to win? You'll never win. You suck. You're pathetic. I am Shang Kahn. I rule this world. You are nothing. It's like, man, the things he said was so mean. You got those creatures over there. I think the last time those guys kicked my butt cheeks. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
White diamond. That sucks.
How do I get down there without getting hurt? Ooh, it's got diamond here? Oh, that's the extractor.
And we have, if you go any lower, you have the purple one.
Did I use the right extractor? Do we need it, or it doesn't matter?
You want the blue one, I think. You have any of the blue one?
Nope.
Either one will work, but that one will take longer. One of them is a little more powerful. Yeah, the advanced one's better.
That's fine. Oh yeah.
If you go any lower, you have to use the purple item that I gave you. The corrupted one. And don't walk in the lava, it burns.
Okay, let that extractor do its thing. Did you go all the way down? Oh, you're right there. You said don't go in the lava? It looks dangerous. Oh, God! Oh, wait, what is this? Yeah, I can't craft nothing. Dude, it's dark down here. I guess you never been down here, huh?
Yeah, I've been down there. Yeah.
Oh, you look scared to come down here, bro.
This one you want to use the corrupted one. The purple one. The purple potion I gave you. Use that one down there because you'll die if you don't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you'll get corrupted pretty quickly.
What happens if I get corrupted?
You just die.
Seriously? I don't become corrupted?
Slowly lose your health and you die. Should be the purple potion I gave you. I think you should have like 8 of them or 8 of them.
Got it. Okay, I used it.
They'll keep you safe for another 10 minutes, so we'll be good for 10 minutes until we die.
How do we go back up? We ain't got no way to get it back up.
We
Yeah.
can teleport. Just push T to teleport.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's the best way to go. All right, bro. I can't craft anything. Did you capture any of those yet?
No.
Well, go get one.
And what?
Come on, they're so cute, Jay. Don't you want one?
If they don't kill me before I get one. And the water, there's water down there you have to watch out for because it'll corrupt you faster. This is like the most dangerous part of the whole game.
Bum 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 bum. Deadpool, gonna go get a new pet. Craft wood walls with decorative category 20. 20 of those. I have to do that later. I have to finish some of these objectives. Okay. Oh, now I'm cold. I was hot, now I'm cold. Must have got colder outside. Dude, I'm scared to go down there. That looks like a death pit. Like, getting up is gonna be a problem.
Ow, that hurt. Yeah, we can just teleport.
Oh, corruption will damage you over time. Get somewhere safer. Dude. So these enemies are just purple.
Yep. But they're harder to kill, and they hurt much more.
Well, mine did you help, bro? I got a purple one here.
Ouchie, that one hurt.
Oh, you ain't lying.
Oh.
No!
They cheated.
Dude, what the heck? Look, we died right by... Oh, I'm corrupted.
I lost my sword. What? Man. I lost my sword too. I got a twig now.
Really?
Yeah, I broke my... Must have killed my sword. Broke my sword.
Oh, we gotta get down there, bro.
I'm gonna have to craft me a sword. Single twig. What do I have for swords?
I gotta at least get my stuff and then...
Yeah, that hurt.
Yeah, that sure did.
Let's see if I can craft a diamond sword, maybe.
Oh, get out of the corruption! How do I know which one's yours or mine?
They don't have a name of them. You could probably get them both if you have enough space.
I think I got both. Gonna come back up top.
Oh yeah, you got them both good.
Alright, Jay.
Go down there. I don't have a sword.
Well, I got your stuff.
Okay, good, because my sword broke and the ones I have are stone and they're useless. rod.
How do I drop it again? Did I drop it?
You drag it to the little bag in the bottom right corner.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to make me a sword here if I can find the stuff I need. There's that. Twine.
Wasn't there a way to drop all?
I think so, I'm just not sure how. Dang it, I don't have enough. Can't make it. That sucks. Where do we find it? So I need to find one more tooth. So I'm gonna cheat real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, no problem.
Where to find a worm? Worm. No. No. Yeah, that's not a good idea. I don't think I want to go fight that thing with the stick.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's in the lava area, so yeah.
Well, here, don't forget your stuff.
Oh, they interact with it like that. There we go. I gotta
Did you get them all?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because this game doesn't support controller, does it?
I think it does. I'm not sure.
Really? Here, let me try. Because if it does, I'll play this on my phone. Let's find out. No, I think I'll have to set the controller manually. But it's probably possible. But for key too, if I do this, yeah, it does. Joystick. Let me see. Yep, it takes controller. But you have to assign the keys manually.
Yeah, it's weird. Look at all the diamond cooking. Okay, I guess since I can't make a diamond sword or a stone, I guess I'll do obsidian.
Oh, miss, how would I look around? Yeah, never mind. Because I can't look left, right. I can move around though and jump on the controller. And then I can interact. Yeah, it all works. That's too much work. I'm good. I was hoping I had controller support and like naturally, because that way I know it's because games like these, yeah, you can move around, but I'll still be needing to tap on the screen. But Borderlands 2, I can play on my phone, on the computer, because that game supports controller, even though I'm used to the mouse. Yeah, yeah. Oh no. Man, I need to get an obsidian thing.
Which one?
With what?
What do you need to get?
Huh?
What did you need to get?
I forget what I was saying.
You said something about you need to get a something or something.
I have no idea. Oh yeah, I need the obsidian glove because or mining tool, whatever. Or mining cell.
For diamond, I could get you a diamond one, which is a lot better.
Yeah, because the iron is not cutting it. Because once we get to the fire part, that's where I start not being able to collect.
Because the way it goes is stone is first, and then it's obsidian. So iron is the next best one, and then diamond is the one I got right now, which it broke. So.
Oh no.
And the lumite one is next, which is gonna be impossible to make, basically.
Oh.
We need to find this tourmaline and some ice, so we need to go to the ice place. Before we do that, I need to give me a sword made.
Yeah, just get your sword.
Right now I can't fight with the stick, and I don't want to use the stone one because they're useless against enemies. Stone rod and obsidian. Find stone rod. I did it. There it is.
Every time I see these like colored leaves, I think of Fruity Pebbles. That's just me loving food.
I'll help. Nope. Figure out this stupid thing. Clean up the trees again.
Oh yeah, just while you're in there.
Got this sword.
I see the obsidian sword. Okay, okay.
I gotta put a bunch of stuff away too, because where we going next? It's gonna be a little scary. It's a bad place.
You know what I hate doing? It's all your fault, Jay.
What?
So how's the forest? How you like it so far? Right, right. Yeah, the game's got great reviews. I saw that game was like one of the thing of for a while now.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It'd be a lot more fun with more people, you know, like
Right. How many players can it go to?
you can make your own servers, and I've seen some servers that are like up to 100 people, so
Wow.
and you can also make like your own custom server where you can only have so many people join, and that's it, like hey, up to 8 people or whatever you want to make.
Right, right.
Look at all these things. I have too much stuff.
We gotta get you that interview. I just don't want you to miss it. 'Cause this is like, so honestly, bro, you see how there's not that many people that can do it.
Yeah, it kind of sucks with 2 people.
I can. Yeah, that'd be nice, bro. One thing is, you'll be a cadet at first, so you won't be able to like drive by yourself. That's okay. We'll do ride-alongs, man.
I can do that.
Now you're gonna see the headaches I go through. Cause you weren't a cop on Kingpin, were you?
No,
You never been a cop on any server.
Nope.
Okay.
I did a cop on Kingpin, and yeah, they never.
Yeah. A lot of times, it's usually the police is usually the hardest one to get into because you gotta understand it's an important faction. Like, cause you're obviously doing authority, like you're in control of like, you know. Wait, what? You have to make a stand for it before it spawns the Rockazilla boss? What? What? Jay, there's bosses? Dude, why am I so tired? Oh.
Fight the Rockazilla, we might get our butts kicked.
Oh, we couldn't even get through the corruption area.
I know, we got whooped.
Yeah, I'm just gonna clear this one tree and that's it, bro. This is too much. But I know we're gonna need wooden leaves anyway, so it's... Dude, I wanted that table so bad today, bro. I was gonna get it, bro. I'm like, you know what? You know me, I'm cheap. So I'm on a budget, okay? Okay, I'm debating. I need a motherboard and a processor, and I really want to go graphics card if I can. I don't know yet. But for sure, I can still get away with the 1080 if worse comes to worse. But I do want the new Turing and coding chip if I can. But if not, it's not a big deal. I'm not gonna it's not gonna be the end of the world. But I do want the new CPU. The only thing is I'm not familiar with AMD, and you know, because like Intel, I know everything about it. You know what I'm saying? But a processor is a processor. Now I know I'm gonna get lower clock speeds, but I will be getting way more cores. So we're gonna try that out and see what's going on. Plus I'll have more bus lanes, so I'll be able to make use of my capture card and the graphics card more too, probably. Which would be perfect. So instead of what? I'm at 16, now I'll have 24 instead.
Here, I'll give you a little assistance. This will make it go faster.
Oh, what's this?
Click F on it.
How do I use that? Oh, that works.
Wow, I cleared out a bunch of...
Wait, why is there a bag here? What the heck? You said what?
It collects everything for you.
Well, that's cool. So why am I doing it this way?
I don't know.
Well, thanks, Jay. Just sat there and just watched me, probably.
Actually, I was putting all my stuff away.
Alright. Blueprints are for spawners. Ah, gotcha. And AMD's very good CPUs, yeah. Well, I know I heard good about the Threadrippers, but the problem about the Threadrippers, not all of them are that good. They do have cheaper ones, but they're not the ones that are being advertised usually. You know what I'm saying? But I'm still. I can go Ryzen 7 and it's cheaper, or I can just go with the newer generation, go the Ryzen 9. I don't know. The Ryzen 9 is just newer, but it's only like what, $100 more? I don't know, man. We'll see. Gotta do something. But I'm gonna get AMD a try. I don't know about their graphics card though. You have their graphics card, right?
Yeah.
Now I know the only issue you had was like some games don't support it, so you won't get that extra like graphical detail that like the blood or something. But other than that, in terms of performance, how does it run?
Pretty good, actually.
Better than that. What was that last card you had again? Didn't they like rip you off or something?
Yeah, the 720. It was supposed to be a 1080, I think. I think it might have been 1050 Ti that was supposed to be, and it was 720. I fell.
Yeah, just to clear one tree out the way, you know?
And the place we have to go now is... yeah, it's gonna be fun. Yeah, my brother, he had an old computer that had an AMD back when they were...
Now, AMD used to be very bad. Well, not bad. I'm not going to say they were bad, but most of the time when you bought a computer, AMD was always like the cheaper version, way less core speeds, and they didn't really compete with Intel's hyper-threading at the time. But now AMD's got they got the logical threads and they got the actual cores too, so that's really good. I did have an AMD graphics card. I believe I had the 7870 at the time. It was the HD Radeon 7870. It was okay. I mean, it ran the games I wanted to play. So I'm kind of familiar with AMD's GPU. I just never really had their CPU. But AMD never caught my eye until the Ryzens and Threadrippers came out. Those CPUs caught my attention, and those are the ones that everybody's bragging about. Even some of their low-end ones, like the ones that are like $100, $200, are even like on par with like Intel's $300 CPUs, and it's just like half the price, and you're getting the same speeds, or at least the same performance. The only bad thing about AMD, I know that they run a lot hotter, but you know what though? That's what cooling is for.
Mine doesn't get very hot.
No?
I think mine's the highest I've ever seen it is like maybe 45 degrees.
Yeah, like right now mine's like 45, but I do have it overclocked to 4.8 gigahertz for each core.
And that's even with like playing high-end games that, of course, it's going to be like minimum resolution because we got the low-end card or graphic processor, but it's still...
Yeah. Well, I think my GPU is actually better than my CPU, and I think that's why I'm not getting that performance that I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think that's my problem too, because my CPU is not as good as my GPU, so I'm getting like the lag and render lag and stuff like that sometimes. So.
Yeah, that's annoying.
Because I can still play Call of Duty at like around 60 frames, but it's on low settings, so I had to turn it down because my game was lagging too much. Because my CPU is like basically throttling because it's got to keep up with the GPU. Like, okay, so do we want to wait till morning to go over to where we need to go now, or do you want to go now and risk getting attacked by monsters?
I guess we'll wait till morning.
Okay.
What we do? Go to sleep?
Yep. There's a bed in there, and I got a bed in there. Because it's gonna be wild where we gotta go.
Is it morning?
Yep.
Yay!
It was night. We gotta go back to sleep again. It's 10:25 at night.
Wait, it's nighttime.
So yeah, we gotta go back to sleep again.
Oh man.
That's the problem with sleeping that early.
Ready?
So you have to go back to sleep now. There you go. Sometimes when you go to sleep too early, it does that.
I think it's morning. Yep.
5:15 in the morning. There we go. Yeah, we can go here and see one of these things. That was fun to tame.
Oh, that one?
Yeah, the rainbow. Because he rams you like a ram would do. He does
Okay.
not. He'll knock you clear off the mountain. Because he's in the mountains. And this is another one that was fun to tame. I almost died taming both of these.
Wait, where'd you go? Oh,
It's another one that was hard to tame.
but this one's like the same one, kind of, but just like frozen type.
Yeah, he's in the frozen area. So, to get ice, we gotta go to the frozen area. Ow. Your guy's over here.
What?
That monster thing that you tamed, he's still over here.
Seriously?
He's still standing over here. Still hanging out over here. I'm hungry.
Probably starving.
I think it's this way.
Oh, it's gonna be there's the ice. The flying is so hilarious. These things don't attack you?
Yes, they will.
Hmm?
Yeah, they'll attack you.
Or they will?
If you attack them first, they'll attack you.
Oh.
Or if you try to tame them.
Okay. Alright, change my mind.
You might want to kill it now because it's going to keep attacking you. Oh no, it stopped. What?
It stopped?
It stopped. Wow.
Well, what is he doing?
Just sitting there looking at me. It looks so much like that dodo bird.
No, I know, right? What was it? Ark had the dodos. I remember that.
have like an ice potion in your inventory?
I think so.
You might want to use one of those real quick. I need to get one too because I don't have any. 'Cause we could freeze it.
Yes, I do.
If you hold shift when you drop them, you just drop like 5 or half of them. Hold shift and drag them to that little baggie.
But how do I not only drop one? There was a way, remember?
If you hold shift, you can drop half of them. You can't. I don't think you can drop one of them. I'm not sure how you do drop one. Maybe it's control.
Oh, I see a half, yeah.
I need to take one real quick here. I'm about to. You don't like freeze to death like instantly. You have it like slowly takes your health. And I think I got enough ice now. I got 20.
That's good. All right, so what do we have to do here?
I just need to get some ice. And I got 40 ice now, so we got enough ice. Let's see what else we got here.
Why is there a random bag behind you on the ground?
Oh, something died over there.
Oh yeah, I did.
One of those pigs was. Something you can want to capture if you want to capture this.
Oh, well. I'm getting ice cubes and stuff. Blizzard, Chazard, Gazard. The hell is that? Bum 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 bum.
I have no clue why this thing's over here, but. Yeah, I didn't like that too much. You can come tame this thing now. I got it mad now, so you can tame it. That's right, people. Stop moving. Why did I kill you then?
That's always good.
Ooh, almost died. Wow, that thing hurts. He's mad. He's run for it. Did you want to try taming this little bull-looking thing?
I'm gonna have to try.
He will hurt. Oh no, rock monster.
That's not good.
This is a big thing. I'll bring him to you. Oh, he's gonna attack you now.
Oh, I'm stuck in inventory. No.
Ow. He stunned me.
Okay.
He stunned me. He stunned me. Ah, I'm gonna die.
I'll get his attention. He stopped. The hell, he teleported. Good job. Go ahead.
Oh man, that thing's...
Like a tank, like Geb from Smite.
Yeah, he hurts. That one I don't think I would try to tame. That thing would be too hard. He'd probably kill you before you got tamed. Oh, this is gonna be good. Okay, I know how you tame this thing quickly. This thing is watching me.
Well, that's good.
for a new gaming desk and you want height adjusting? Well, you're in luck because the gaming desk from Trixzbot has all that and more, and we're gonna...
All right, Jay, you still there?
I'm still here, yep.
Look at that, bro. Bro, you got me all up in your face. Oh, my bad. Can I tame you?
Probably not. We can tame this thing though. I got a plan. I'll stun it, and you can try to tame it.
Okay. 14 seconds. One and yay. And I'm stunned.
Stun you too. Whoops.
Yeah, that's okay. I got it though. There's a couple bags over here. Hold on. I see.
That rock thing probably has the same way.
Oh no.
There's a new piece too that we got.
Oh, what the? How did I get in the water? Well, me and my pet are in the water. Oh my gosh. How the heck that happened? I fell through the world.
I seen that. You were on my screen all of a sudden you were gone, like, oh, okay.
It was weird. I went under there. I was like, wait, what just happened?
Oh no.
That was scary, bro. Okay, all right, so what are we doing?
Because we gotta go back down underneath the
Okay.
ground again to get the rest of the stuff we need.
Right, right.
Here's something you haven't got yet. Some cactus.
That is true.
Where'd you go though?
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Your pet like teleported on me. He was stealing.
Oh, I'm seeing monsters flying from the air. What the heck?
Oh, there's that rock monster.
Right, true. Where is he?
Like right in front of me.
Here. Oh, he's behind us. Look. Oh!
Oh no.
He wants you. What did you do to the poor man? What the?
Oh no. Ow.
She tried to hit me from the air. Oh yeah, you gonna tame him? Well, it doesn't take long to tame. I got him. Yay.
I wish
Right?
these other monsters like attack other monsters. That'd be awesome.
True, true.
Take out that other rock monster.
Where is he?
Right over here. Basically where we were at before. Oh no. I keep pushing the wrong button. What the? Oh no. What the?
What the hell is that?
It's a dust devil.
Is that bad?
Yeah.
Can't tame it?
You can. I'm gonna try to.
He looks dangerous.
Oh, I'm gonna try taming it.
Yeah, ready? And I got it. Dust devil?
Yeah, those things. They can hit pretty hard. They launch you like in the air too, so you can fly.
Wow.
They hurt worse than that rock monster.
Speaking of that, we haven't played Pokemon in a while. I forgot about that.
Yeah, been on all of it.
Right. Gosh. Why so many games, man? I don't know what to do anymore. Oh no. These guys move fast. Starting to become nighttime.
Yeah, we went back, teleport back. Unless you want to see the crazy monster that's coming out of back.
Can we tame him?
Yeah.
Where'd you go? Wow, what the? Oh, I see what you mean. Oh, what the? You ain't lying, bro. There's a lot of them at night.
Oh no, he's coming after me. I'm just running. Oh, coming after me, what the heck?
There's a bunch of them.
There's even one of those at night, gizzard or whatever they are.
Gizzard, my gizzard. No, I'm just playing. I forgot how the song goes. Oh, what am I after?
I seen that rock monster. I was like, oh shoot, it was yours. Like, it scared me. Maybe.
I don't know if I have any of those bombs.
Ow!
No, I don't have any of them.
I unlocked mine by doing the mission that you understood. Complete this task to get this. We have two now. These things will make me
But like I got the Fantastic Four over here.
yeah. So many of them.
Well, my character's freezing.
I just had to take this potion. I can teach you the poison area.
Who? What?
There's the poison area.
Hell yeah, let's go. Oh, one was dead. Oh, okay, I'm out of here. Bye bye. No! I'm almost dead. I'm gonna teleport back.
Exactly. Poisonous areas, these are poisonous and they get poisoned and you slowly die. So we got enough ice for tourmaline, which is down below.
Oh no! Oh man, the stretcheroni. It's crazy. Boom, bada boom, bada boom.
What did they say you could do with mineral water?
What do you gotta do with that?
I know it heals you, but I'm not sure. I know you can make stuff with it too, but I just don't know what.
Speaking of heal, I gotta hit that heal machine. You're right. Give me a second.
I think you have to stand on top of the healing.
Oh, that was good. Okay. We still can't make the obsidian or diamond cell?
Yeah, we have to get tourmalines.
Dang it.
Did it heal you up?
Yeah, I'm healed.
I got diamond, I got iron slab, I need tourmaline. I have 2, I need 4.
Wow.
And I have hardened lava. I already got the lava, so I got plenty of lava. And tourmaline is somewhere in the same area as the lava, so we have to go down there and look for that. And I'm not sure where the poison area is at. I can't remember. I could Google it though.
Oh, we got a new cadet. Okay. Yeah, you're missing out, bro. Somebody just got in. That was the other person that got hired.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of people got accepted.
Yeah. Bad thing about the chief. All right. Let's see.
Okay, so marshlands, where is that at?
So Dorellis got the Ryzen 2700 and loves it. That's like one of the really popular ones, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the one I've seen a lot of people put in their builds. Because I was going to go Threadripper, but honestly, dude, I don't need 64 threads. What the hell?
That's
I'm not... That's too much. You know, I think with 12 cores, 24 threads, I think that's perfect. Because what that's going to do, it's going to double what I have now. So the whole purpose of switching is to get more out of it. I don't want to just upgrade just a tiny bit and just spend more money. But then again, not really, because I can get the same CPU what I have now cheaper. 8 core, 16 thread, yeah, see? So even that beats mine. I know Intel has better single core speeds, but that's about it. But AMD's killing it in terms of performance, bro. Like, and I heard even overclocking them bad boys is pretty stable.
yeah. I can't overclock mine, otherwise I would, but...
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a really big fan of overclocking, but honestly, I do the safe overclock. Like, I'm overclocked, and I'm running about 40 degrees Celsius, so it's fine. But I see streamers and other YouTubers and all that, they be using this processor, and they be overclocking at like 5 gigahertz. Dude, I tried it, it won't let me. It could be maybe my power supply is not enough, I don't know, but maybe it's just something I need to configure the voltage levels correctly, but I tried everything. I can't get it. I can get 4.9, but that's barely, but 5.0 is pushing it to the max, so I might have to go like actual real water cooling to do 5.0. Or it could just be my motherboard just doesn't like doing it.
It could be.
Let me see something. I'm gonna look at this really quick. The AMD 2700, right? AMD, what is it called? Just the 2700. Oh, it would be Ryzen 2700. You know what would really make me upset if all this is not my hardware and it's just my Windows?
Oh, that would, yeah.
Because honestly, bro, what's so weird is that my older processor, which was 4th gen, no, it was 3rd gen. I had a 3770K, and that thing was pretty much the same thing. I think instead of 3.7, it was 3.4 gigahertz, and then the boost clock of whatever. You know, I think it was like 4.3 or something. Like mine now is 3.7 boost 4.7, I think. Or 4.4 or something like I don't remember. Can't even think right now. My brain cells are just like pfft. It's done. Let me see here.
Wow, this map is huge.
Yeah, I'll type it in chat real quick to show you what I'm talking about. These were actually the two I was looking at in terms of price point. Look at the big difference. But see, that's not bad, bro. $160 for 8 cores. Like, that's awesome. See, I wish I would have got that before I bought that Intel. Like, if I would have bought that first, I would have been in good condition.
Yeah.
They can both be overclock. What else is it? It won't let me. My only thing is the cache memory. I can't really remember. Most processors average, I think, about 16 MB. I don't remember what was the benefit of having more. Maybe that's what gives you the more performance. I have to look. Actually, let me Google it. CPU cache memory. A CPU cache is a hardware cache used by the central processing unit of a computer to reduce the average cost, time, or energy to access data. So it means it'll be faster. Smaller, faster memory located closer to the processor core, which stores copies. Okay, so it's just an SRAM. Microprocessor can access more quickly. I guess that's kind of... I guess more is better. I guess it wouldn't really matter, really. Oh, man. These animals are very annoying. Have you ever heard them?
Oh yeah, I hear them all the time. Their noises are just, yeah, they're crazy. And mostly it's that pig downstairs and the crab that make all the noise. All your pets.
Yeah, Dorellis. Let me see where Dorellis is. Hold on. Let me get him in here. I got him. There he is. Hold on. My bad. I gotta up your volume now. How come you're so low? Try again.
It's because I have proper settings now.
There we go. Yeah, maybe I think I lowered you down before for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's because for some reason before I had entirely too much gain, and I was able this time after redoing my computer to get everything set. We haven't actually talked since I redid it. So.
Yeah, well, I'm the same way. I more gain is never good, but it's just some applications like to be funny about not having enough gain.
Yeah.
I think a game I play, I have an issue where people can't hear me sometimes. But other than that, everything else runs fine. But go ahead.
All right, so let's start. Where should I start here?
Well, first, I want something kind of future-proof.
First, cash is important.
It is important? Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of figured.
It's like RAM. Think of it as personal RAM for the CPU.
Okay.
Okay, just you got to think of it that way. Now, next part. Future proofing. Okay, unless you're gonna go like TRX 40 with a fucking full-blown Threadripper, you can't really future-proof anything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there is no such thing. But you can buy yourself about a 5-year to even close to 10-year window like I did.
Right.
Okay? Now, the way you do that is you're gonna have to switch platforms. You have to. Okay, because Intel, no matter how you skirt it, even if you stay with them, if you gotta have Intel, all right,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have to switch platforms because they're changing platform.
Right. I know Intel still use the old sockets, and I heard their next generation that they're gonna change.
No, they've already put out 2 new sockets with
Oh.
2 series. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little behind, but I read something about it.
Oh my God, they're still. The easiest way to say it is if you're an Intel fanboy, you must have a loose ass. Okay, because that's all they're doing to their customers, honestly.
Yeah. No, it's true.
The amount of threads you get, actually, let's not even go cores and threads. Let's not even go there. Let's go PCIe lanes. That is the biggest insult I've ever seen. 24 PCIe lanes max on a fucking processor that you spend $900 on. Okay,
Yeah, I don't get that.
in my old ass computer, dude. Okay, this one here is, I think it's only got 32. Okay, with the chip I have. All right.
Right, but it's still double
4.
the what 8 and 9 gen was doing.
Yeah, but I think on AM4 the max is like 44.
Okay.
Still, 44 fucking lanes is way more than you're gonna use. Okay, because you're talking 16 for your video, 8 for your capture, and 4 for each one of your NVMEs. Okay, and don't you have 2? Or you have 1?
No, I don't have any NVMEs.
Oh, you don't?
Nope. Just 2 regular solid state drives and 1 hard drive.
Okay, well, you're
I do want to go with NVMe, but the price point was still kind of high at the time, so I didn't do it.
okay, well, still your SATA controller consumes 4.
Yeah, but I did get the Evo Samsungs, and they run pretty good.
Good. Yeah, so do I. I have the same. I love those drives, dude. those are. I can actually honestly say that is what kept me using that old ass computer was that Samsung drive and my 1070.
Right.
For you, I would recommend no bigger than like a Ryzen 7 2700X. Okay, I'm just putting that out there because it's a 4.2 or 4.3 boost clock. It's got 8 core, 16 threads. It's got 32 PCIe lanes. So you're gonna have more than enough. Okay, even if you were to start using NVMEs.
Right.
And you have the ability to go all the way up to the the 3950X later on down the road, which is a 16 core 32 thread with 44 lanes.
See, I was looking at the 3950X, but I was comparing that between the 3900, and there was a huge price gap.
44 lanes. Yeah, there's a huge price gap, but they both have the same amount of lanes. The difference is 4 extra cores.
Yeah, I did see the cores.
Now I got a friend of mine that bought just recently. I did a little stream with it too. It was probably horrible quality because my computer was wagging out. It's before I got my stuff.
Uh-huh.
But it was a 3900X, 32 gigs of RAM, 2080 Ti Ultra. Okay. I think he had an Evo 970 NVMe along with a secondary hard drive, and all built into a Lee & DeBauer case. Crosshair 8 Formula, or no, Crosshair 8 Hero board. I mean, top end shit. Out of the box. Out of the box, that thing had a 13,000 score on fucking Time Spy. 3D Mark Time Spy, and fucking it just Cinebench R20.
Uh-huh.
Dude, Cinebench R20, it was blasting everything in its path. It has score over 6,000. I mean, out of the box, no tweaking, no adjusting, no changing a goddamn thing.
Right.
Just out of the box, okay? Same thing with my system. I haven't touched shit. I haven't overclocked my memory. My memory's still running at the default 2133, okay? And even though I have 3200 in there, I have the 2700, not the 2700X. I have the 2700, and with a stock cooler. All right, and right now, with me just running my normal shit, let me see. I'm using a whopping 2%. Now I can turn around and let me fire up my streaming gear. Let's see what kind of stats I can pull out. I'm even gonna close the page real quick. Sorry, you're gonna lose a view for a second.
No, you're fine.
I'm just
Yeah, I've been like watching a lot of like YouTube videos. I've been reading a lot of forums and threads, and this is what I should have did when I did the intel, which I kind of did, but it was more of a skim through. But this time I went more in depth in terms of like the heat, the performance, the single core, the multi-core. All in all, I hate to say this, but there was only one processor that probably kept up with AMD's high-end processors as well, and it's like, but the rest of them were just like way at the bottom of the barrel, but AMD's got a majority of them on top, so it's like AMD's they're doing it right. I mean, that whole double, whatever it's called, the little like double chip they got under processors. I just like the performance you're getting out of it. Like, it just sounds amazing.
hold on a second.
Where we want to go now, Jay? I'll follow you.
I'm gonna run Cinebench R20 right here, live on my stream, while
Well, you don't-
streaming, and show you my point.
Okay.
Just how strong not even the X series processors are.
You just got the 2700.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to get to understand. I'm doing all that. My wife can do the same thing I'm doing with a 1600, which is a first gen chip. Okay, they have come so far, dude. I think I'm actually turning into a AMD fanboy to no end. I used to support both sides. I've always ragged on Intel for their bullshit high prices, and then when they started fucking you guys on PCIe lanes.
Right.
But now it's, before I'd still give Intel the credit, because at one time you did have a hell of a badass processor, dude. It used to handle it pretty good. But now it's just getting to where loads are too high on things nowadays. It's not Windows per se, it's everything.
No, that's true. You know what I think it is? You remember when like multi-core wasn't really entirely there quite yet, even though some things did support it. Even games only ran 2 to 4 cores. Now they're all things are starting to become multi-core compatible, and with that being said, I think now people are starting to realize like Intel is just not doing it. Oh my god, Navoke, thank you so much for that resub. What's going on, dude? Okay, just in time. We're talking about getting processors. I gotta get a new one, bro. Yeah, that is crazy. I mean, and the price, like less than $200, and you're getting that. Like, that's what's amazing. Can I run 2 processors? Can I put an AMD and an Intel together?
Well, actually, this may sound weird as shit, but what I would say you should do with yours, you should get yourself some basic AMD like memory, motherboard, and video combo, or not video, memory, motherboard, and CPU combo. Okay. Get yourself a cheapy little derpy case that comes with a power supply, and then you take that piece of crap.
Thank you, Navoke. I'm doing pretty good, bro. I'm doing pretty good.
Built-in video. Slap that motherfucker into that other shitty case, and call it your streaming PC, because that's really all it's good for.
Right. Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking about doing, because even the I think when I first got this Intel processor, the built-in one it's okay. It ran some games at some pretty decent settings, so for a streaming PC, I think it'll do fine.
My wife's playing.
Yeah, what the heck was that? Oh, right there goes the rage.
Horror games. No. She's playing horror games. It scares the crap out of her.
Which one?
Which one are you playing? What? Layers of Fear.
Oh, I don't think I've ever. Didn't they make a part 2?
I don't know.
That's actually a really good game. I think I played the demo or like alpha of it. I didn't really get to play it entirely.
Yeah, she's.
I know, you get some rest, Navog. Hey, I appreciate you coming in though and doing that for me. Thank you so much. Like, you guys are really helpful. There is a part 2 coming out. Oh, okay.
And a rat.
Yeah, Jay, I'm gonna follow you, bro. So we're not like just standing around. Whatever you want to do, man, just let me know.
Okay.
We got to get you on this interview too, or just whenever you're ready, or you could just do it on your own time, like when I'm not here. You just log in, get ready for it.
She's walking around this room, you know, all kinds of cliche, creepy noises, right?
Right.
You know, all that shit. You know, picture starts melting, lights are flickering. You know, then she's like, yeah, cliche. She turns around, and all the books that were laying on the floor are now in the shape of a person and fly at her.
Oh. You know what though? I like those kind of games. I don't like just pop out jump scare. I like when games use the environment and like do different things.
Yeah. Cinebench R20. Gotta run it right here. You can see if you want. Let me pull up my stream so you can see.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
This is, you know, when it's good when you're streaming live.
Right, don't crash the system.
Yep, while running Cinebench. Oh.
And Okay, I'm in there.
It's extracting it. Just download it.
Oh, you're fine. Okay, I'm in there. Yeah,
It's extracting it now.
what was I gonna say? Oh, you're fine. Like, I had an AMD graphics card, like, but this is when they weren't so good. It wasn't a bad card. Oh, I see you got it up. Graphics card.
This shows a Ryzen 1700X 8-core right here is listed. Xenon, i7.
This shows a
7700.
Ryzen 1700X.
Yeah, but look, my processor's nowhere even on that list. You see that?
Xenon.
Yeah.
i7.
Well, it just grabs a
7700.
whole bunch of randoms.
Oh, okay.
So watch, I'm gonna run it right now.
You see that?
It's live right here.
Well, it just grabs a whole bunch of randoms.
So, which one are you close to?
Let's see what happens.
So, which
Here goes.
one are you close
to?
Mind you, this is while it's streaming.
This is what's weird about Ryzen. It starts to get faster the longer it does.
This is what's weird about Ryzen.
Yeah, 8-core 16 thread. I know you feel good, man. Coming from what you had, didn't you have like a 4-core 8 thread or something like that? Yeah, 8-core. Yeah, so now you pretty much doubled. Coming from what you had, didn't you have like a 4-core 8 thread or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so
it was
now
a-
you pretty much.
Now, I've
doubled
never
it.
run that on this, so I have no idea how this thing's gonna do. And you can see where mine says it's our Ryzen 7 2700.
Now, I've never run that on this.
Yeah.
8-core
idea how
16
this
thread,
thing's gonna
3.2.
You can see where mine says it's our Ryzen 7 2700 8-core. 8-core 16 thread, 3.2.
I was thinking about getting an Intel Celeron.
What?
Yeah, I was gonna get a Celeron one. They got those. They have those on sale.
Celeron. Are you a schmuck?
I'm just joking.
I wanna slap you.
Oh my god. I mean,
I got a score of 2409, and that's
just
most likely that's because I'm streaming.
oh, well, for sure. I mean, because one, you're using OBS, and that's already taken up all your cores, and then you got the stream.
I should have scored up here.
Well,
So
for
that's-
sure.
that's
I
not
mean,
bad
because
right
one,
there.
you're using OBS,
Okay.
and that's already taken
And
up all your
right
cores.
now, I
and then you
can
got the
literally
stream.
like play any game I
So
want. Like,
that's not bad right there. Okay.
Pick
And
something here. I got
right now, I
Andromeda.
can literally like play any game I want.
Oh, how about that new Star Wars? Okay.
Pick something here.
How did you like Andromeda?
Haven't played it through
Oh,
yet.
how about that new Star Wars game?
I know
How's it like the first planet?
when it first came out, people were complaining because supposedly it was supposed to be 4K and all this good stuff, and I guess they didn't keep up to some of their promises. But it wasn't, you know. And then a lot of the true Mass Effect fans complain because it's like, have you played any of them? They didn't keep up to some of their promises. Okay. Yeah, so you know you're not going to be Commander Shepard, right?
Yeah, no, I have you played any of them?
Right, but it's still nice to play a Mass Effect game in general, because, like, honestly, they're good games. Right, but it's still nice to play a Mass Effect game in general, because, like, honestly... And I like that you can mod them, too. I was trying to play Mass Effect 1, because that was one I never got to play. Well, at least not all the way through, so I figured, I was like, you know what, let me... I was trying to play Mass Effect 1. Oh, you gotta update all your launchers now. You gotta update Origin, you gotta update Epic Launcher, you gotta update Steam, and then you gotta update this and that, and then you gotta update whatever else. Update all your launchers now. You gotta update Origin, you gotta update Epic Launcher, you gotta update Steam, and then you gotta update this and that, and then you gotta update whatever else.
It has to update. There's some kind of update for fucking Star Wars one.
Oh, Jay, you scared the freaking crap out of me. I literally jumped.
Star Wars one.
He threw a bomb at me and I freaking, my cheeks lifted off the seat for a second. I literally jumped. Woo!
If I throw up Atlas, you gonna come play?
Speaking of Atlas, I do have to reinstall it. I can get it in though. That's a pretty big game. I know that's not gonna just take 5 minutes. Speaking of Atlas, yeah, because honestly, my hard drive space was getting full. Not lately. I've been meaning to. Jay's been telling me to get on there.
Have you played anytime you guys want to hop in, I'll jump in with you.
Yeah, we've been trying to play with people because like it's usually me, him, or the one time it was like me and Eridar. I never get like a full squad on.
Oh, dude, we got.
And I know it's because the time's up, but you and I are almost the same, except for 3 hours. I never get like a full squad on.
Oh, dude, we got. Dude,
I know it's because the time's up, but you and I are almost the same, except for 3 hours. Wow. Okay.
What are you guys playing?
This game is free to play. It's called Creativerse.
Looks like. What are you guys playing? Minecraft.
Yeah. It's called Creativerse. How can we compare this? It is kind of like Minecraft with the whole blocks thing. The crafting is a little different though. It's more kind of futuristic. It's not bad. And for one, it's free. That's the good thing about it. It's more kind of futuristic. Yeah. It's not bad. For one, yeah, my only complaint is I wish it was cross-play and it was available on other platforms. But other than that, though, it's... Controllers? Dorellas? You're supposed to be PC Master Race. What are you doing, bro? Other than that, though, it's...
fix my controller.
Hey, some games like that Star Wars game.
Controllers? No, I don't blame you. What are you doing, bro?
Hey, some games like that Star Wars game still demand a controller.
Yeah, I got wrecked, bro. But yeah, Star Citizen. Yeah, no, I've been meaning to get on there. It's it actually the last time I checked, it's been running better.
Yeah.
Whatever update they did, it seemed a little better. It actually the last time I checked,
I don't like no. I used to like that crazy.
it's been running better. Whatever update they did, it seemed a little better. Okay, where did I die? Right here?
On my potato PC.
Okay, where did I die? Right here? Oh, I was checking out some more like some deep testing between like coolers, like air cooling and water cooling and Noctua cooling. Noctua is still the best air cooling, like for airflow. Granted, it can run a little hot, but for what it is for the price, it's still on par with water cooling. Granted, it can. Well, at least with the all-in-one water cooling, it's not like true water cooling, of course, but it's still on par with water
like I said, that guy that had that whole system right out of the box.
Yeah.
Literally, his was a.
Like I said,
he
that
also
guy
had
that
a freaking
had that whole system right out of the box.
AIO.
Literally, his
Yeah.
360 AIO, and it works perfect.
He also had a freaking.
I honestly, I know Corsair is just a like a very known brand. That's why people buy them. But ever since I bought this I bought that long radiator one. Remember the 360.
Oh my god!
Ever since I bought this,
what the hell did I just do?
What'd you do? Yeah, I bought that long radiator one. Remember the
It's not showing it
360.
on your side.
Oh
what the
my
hell?
god! What the
Okay,
hell did I just do?
No, I just see you hovering over the 360 controller in Device Manager.
It's not showing it on your side. What the hell? Okay.
No, I just see you
welcome
hovering
to
over the
Xbox
360 controller in
Game
Device
Bar.
Manager.
And it's got all my shit loaded up from my Xbox in the living room.
There's just says welcome to.
Oh yeah.
Telling you how much CPU.
And it's got all my.
Well, get ready, Dorellas, because you know that Project xCloud's coming to PC soon.
It's telling you how much
Is
CPU
it?
and
Yep. I don't know how they're gonna do it. I was telling J13 earlier that I actually downloaded. I do the Project X Cloud, so I play Xbox games on my phone, and I used the NVIDIA GeForce to play computer games on my phone. I kind of like the way the Xbox works better. For me, I think the quality's better, and I think it's more consistent, and I think the latency is a lot less. But I understand NVIDIA is just starting this, so they're still developing it. So I don't know. We'll see. Right now, it's kind of too early to tell because nobody's got like a legit all ready to go out. All of them are like in beta.
I can't wait until I can just normally purchase Xbox games on my. Okay.
Right.
You know, when I can do that and be playing with my keyboard and mouse, and the wife can be out there with a controller, where she's a little more comfortable.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I can do that and be playing with my keyboard.
Well, I'm like you. I'm controller for certain games as well, because some games with the mouse and keyboard, your hands start hurting after a while.
Well, some it's just no matter how much they say that it's made for this or that.
Some games with the mouse and keyboard, your hands start hurting. Yeah, like I'm gonna use Skyrim for an example. I play Skyrim. I think I was using the controller because it's more of an open world, walk around, explore. Kind of want to sit back and relax. Yeah, when the battles come up, I wish I used mouse and keyboard. But in all honesty, it's like most of the time you're running around. So I'm like, I'd rather be comfortable. Yeah, when the battles come up, I wish I used mouse and keyboard. But in all honesty, oh, not that thing. Most of the time you're running around. So I'm like, I'd rather be comfortable.
No. My wife even has Star Citizen.
Oh, not that thing.
And she can play it now because she's got.
Oh, so you guys got the same CPU? You guys are both rocking the 2700.
My wife even has what happened was, and this is gonna make you laugh.
Now, because she's got the
A friend of that guy that got the PC and everything.
Right.
The box deal.
Right.
Paid me $140 to put it together.
Okay.
Okay. I in turn bought myself the new processor, and then I bought a motherboard and memory identical to the ones I have, which are the Corsair Dominator 3200s.
And then I bought a motherboard and memory identical to the ones I have, which are the
Asus ROG Strix
3200s and
B450F motherboard. Okay.
See, I want the Strix.
I bought that for her.
B450F
and
motherboard.
I took my 1600 because I originally got a 1600 upgrade.
Okay.
I bought that for her.
And put that 2700 that I bought with the $140 I made off of putting that guy's computer together and put it in mine. So
Oh.
1600 put that with the 32, the same memory and everything. Both of ours are identical except for the chip. She's got the 1600, which is a 6-core 12 thread,
with the 32,
and I've got the 2700, which is
both of ours are
8-core
identical except for the
16
chip.
thread.
She's got the 1600, which is 6-core 12
but
thread.
hers,
and I've got the 2700.
I can tell you, man,
which is an 8-core 16.
man, that thing, I used it for a while. That thing is badass.
But
Right.
I can tell you, man.
Well, I don't know what I need to do. There's got to be something I'm doing wrong. Maybe I need to just cut it down to 2 monitors instead of 3. Or I need to do something. No? Because that'd be more GPU.
People that use 3 just like you don't have the problems that you have, but they're also running AMD still.
Yeah.
Because I know people that use 3 just like you don't have the problem
And
you have, but they're
the
also
kicker
running
to that is they're running lesser video cards than you. And like
Yeah, see, I don't get that.
that run 3 monitors,
They got like 2070, or they have like 1070s, 1060s.
1060s,
As in,
are
like,
the ones they are.
guys that I know that run 3 monitors.
But
You
they're
know-
running, like 8-core 16-thread Ryzen systems with fucking
1060s.
32 gigs of memory and a
But they're running like
NVMe drive.
8-core 16-thread Ryzen.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, I was noticing that a lot of times the TI cards are not even like that much better. They just have more VRAM.
They are better for
cards are not
gaming.
like that much better.
They're not better in general.
Right.
They
Yeah.
are,
Like I don't have a TI card. I have the 1070
gaming.
SC, but
They're not better
with
in
the
general.
studio driver setup that I'm running, it is
Like I don't have a TI card. I have the 1070 SC, but with the studio setup, driver setup that I'm running, it is.
Yeah. I just can't wait. Like I you know what? Like I just don't like the fact that I like that we're getting cross-saved games, cross-platform games, multiple like crossover games too, so that way you ain't gotta buy the same game twice on different platforms. Multiple like crossover games too, so you gotta buy the same game twice on
Fully running now.
different platforms.
There we go. Fully running now.
This one's the Star Wars.
Yep.
Man, I've been wanting to play that.
Oh,
I heard it was actually really good. Like EA did really well for a single player.
I'm pulling 1600 frames a second right now.
Oh, dude, it's.
I heard it was actually really good. Like EA did really well for a single player.
I'm pulling 1600 frames a second right now.
Oh, I see it. Yeah. Okay. Dude, can you imagine in the future we're over here bragging about 100, 200 frames? Can you imagine in the future they're gonna be running like 1,000? And they're gonna be looking at us like, what, you guys were happy with 100, like 200? 200 frames. Can you imagine in the future they're gonna be running like 1,000? They're gonna be looking at us like, what, you guys were happy with 100? Like, all right, what are we doing here, Jay?
Stun him and I will try to capture him.
I need bombs.
I can use this too then. Stun him and I will try to capture him.
I need
You
bombs.
should have 2 stun grenades. I give you
I
that. have that.
Oh yeah, I do. Okay, you ready?
You should have 2 stun grenades.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, it stunned me.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Dude.
Okay. Oh, you had to. Yeah. Okay. Let me go to the side. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, it stunned me.
I got everything cranked on epic.
Oh, you had to. Yeah. Okay. Let me go to the side.
Yeah,
How does it feel, Durellis? I know you love it, man. Remember back in the day we had to turn down the shadows, the resolution.
I'm actually
How does it
curious
feel,
what it's
Durellis?
like.
I know you love it, man. Remember back in the day
I'm
we had to
going
turn down the
straight story mode just to
shadows,
see
the
how it looks.
resolution.
I'm actually curious.
Everything. Last time when I played this, it had a shutter to it because I was playing it on my old system.
Oh yeah. Well, what is your refresh rate on your monitor?
Last time when I played this, it had a shutter to it because I was playing it on my old.
120. Okay. You.
What is your refresh rate on your monitor?
I was gonna say if it's pushing more than what your refresh rate is, you might want to turn VSync on or
Doing 115.
change the cap limit.
That's not why the stutter was happening last time.
Oh, okay.
The system couldn't handle it.
Turn VSync on
I was running on my old system.
change the.
No, that's
I
not
got
why
this
the
back when I
stutter
still had
was
my
happening
old-
last time. It's because my system.
Well, cutscenes are running nice. Most games cutscenes always have like that stutter issue.
I got this back when I still had my old stuff.
Well, cutscenes
Wow.
are running nice. Most games cutscenes always have like that stutter issue.